Welcome to the Wattsburg Area School District, where we are student-centered and future-focused for a world-class education. I now call to order the regular board meeting for Monday, March 17th. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Blazer.
Present.
Mr. Brummagem.
Present.
Mrs. Burlingham.
Here.
Mrs. Hetherington.
Here.
Mrs. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Morvay.
Here.
Dr. Pushchek.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Young.
Present. The board did meet prior to tonight's meeting in executive session for the purpose of discussing the WEA teacher contract negotiations. We'll start off on the agenda this evening. First order of business, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented or amended.
Nicole, so moved.
Blazer, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next order, to approve minutes from the regular board meeting on February 17th. May I have a motion?
So move, Pushchek.
Nicole, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Also to approve minutes from the March 17th work session. May I have a motion to that end?
Blazer, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is school reports.
Mr. President, at this time I'd like to introduce our high school principal, Mr. Hudnall, and he is going to give us an update on all things Seneca High School and the Bobcats.
You might have to turn it on.
Yeah, just click it, I think, towards you. Yep, there you go.
Dr. Berlin, thank you. I have 3 items this evening. We have 2 student presentations and 1 quick data summary involving student activities. So our first presentation this evening will be Gabby Matson. Gabby, come on up.
Hi everybody, my name is Gabby Matson, and today I would like to share mine and Chris's Haynes 20 Time project with you. Our 20 Time project focuses on expressing our gratitude towards the teachers at Seneca, who we feel play a pivotal role in our academic and personal growth. My project partner Carissa Haynes and I have chosen to collaborate with Mr. Hudnall to develop meaningful ideas for Teacher Appreciation Week. Some of the ideas we brainstormed include organizing a cart filled with a variety of snacks to distribute to teachers on a designated day. Another idea we had involves hosting a send-off similar to the ones we have for sports teams, with the drumline and concert band can play. This would give all students an opportunity to show their appreciation to the teachers. We believe with the combined efforts of the Student Council and leadership, these initiatives will contribute to creating a memorable week for our teachers who have given so much to helping students become the best they can be.
Nice work, Gabby. Gabby and Carissa met with me probably several weeks ago, maybe over that. And initially they had a different type of project they were working on. And as we started digging into the logistics of it, we rerouted and we saw an opportunity to join forces between administration and students to help plan and promote Teacher Appreciation Week. And I tell you, there are things that they thought of that I could have never thought of in 1,000 years. So they've been extremely helpful for me in planning Teacher Appreciation Week. Will be coming up here shortly. So our next presenter, you know, Seneca has a strong tradition in our theater department, and that tradition is going to continue with this young man coming up next. His name is Braden Beckus, and he's going to talk about the upcoming theater.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Braden Beckus, and I am a junior and a member of the Seneca High School musical theater. I am here to tell you about our show today, which is Little Shop of Horrors, and tell you a little bit about our program. So, I am one of the male leads, Seymour Curlborn. Seymour is an orphaned and timid florist, a little sneak peek into our musical. He works at Mushnick's Skid Row Flower Shop, and he discovers a strange and interesting plant, and this plant has an unusual diet. So, our cast and crew have been working very hard. Our set looks fantastic. Our props are amazing. This is actually an example of one of our props right here. Our cast has been working very hard going over lines and choreography and singing, and I am very proud. I'd say it's one of our most hard worked on musicals within the last couple of years I've been inside. So our crew is student-led, and then they designed and created 4 plant puppets from the size of a paint can to the size of one able to fit a human. And the one I'm wearing right now, I will puppeteer. But there are 2 other people that will be puppeteering the rest of the plants. Our show is on March 28th and 29th, and we will have a basket raffle before, during, and after the show, as well as a bake sale. Tickets are reserved seating and can be purchased using the QR codes that are on our flyers that we can hand out to you. Does anybody have any questions regarding ticket purchasing or anything about our program?
I'm very excited to come see it. I can't wait.
Thank you.
So do you play the young Seymour?
I do.
And then, is that the smallest one?
This is the plant. This is Audrey 2.
Okay,
So Audrey 2 came from outer space, and he's here to eat people and take over the world. And I raised the plant throughout the show.
oh, okay, all right. I knew there was a,
I'm having a lot of fun. We have a great cast and crew. We have a great time, and we're working very hard.
so who made that?
Our crew, it was with a bunch of different people. We have a bunch of artistic members who put a lot of time into this. Took maybe, I don't know, 5 days, but it looks really good.
It really does look good.
Looks
Everyone's
very
did
cool.
a good job.
All right, will that be it?
Do you have a favorite song?
I have a lot. I'd say Suddenly Seymour's my favorite.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Very nice. We'll look forward to that.
Okay, one other thing I would like to highlight before we move on, just about the character that exists within our students. You know, obviously everybody knows I took over the principal job here in January. We had a dance, we called it the MORP dance, and it really struck me as that dance was going on. We didn't have one problem the entire evening, and the best part, the dance ended, was it 7 to 10, I think? Ended at 10, and about 9:30, without prompting, all the Seneca kids started cleaning up. They cleaned up the chairs, they cleaned the gym, they helped the DJ, they did everything. So, you know, to see that occur without me, you know, going over to them saying, you know, get this done, get that done, was really impressive. And these 2 students are just an example of that. So impressive students, but even better people. So my last piece here tonight, as we're finishing up winter sports and activities going into the spring, I wanted to get a quick snapshot to see where we're at in terms of student involvement. So the way we looked at student involvement was, you know, sports, activities, clubs, ROTC. And these types of things, for me, give our students the why that sometimes needs to be attached to the educational process. So things outside our regular curriculum that students can involve themselves in, that all of a sudden they start getting involved in school in terms of academically. It gives them a reason to start going to school. So these are the numbers we're looking at here. 9th grade, you're looking at 66% of our students, almost 7 out of 10, are involved in some activity in one form or another. And you can see I outlined them there as you go down. 61, 63, 53% for our senior class. 6 out of 10 students walking our hallways are involved in some sort of sport, activity, club, or ROTC, okay? But when you throw in the VOTEC, right? So VOTEC, again, that's one of those academic programs that gives our students the why for going to school. You know, and anytime you have that, when students start building intrinsic motivation into what they're doing, that's a really powerful indicator for academic growth. So when you look at our 9th grade, we're at 66%. Look at 10th grade. Almost 8 out of 10 kids in our hallway walking our hallways are involved in something, which is really, really impressive. Same thing with 11th. 12th, we're at 64%. And overall, when you factor in VOTEC, obviously they don't have VOTEC in 9th grade, but when you factor in all those things and you go, well, what's it look like for our entire student body? Basically 7 out of 10 kids, right? So that's, you know, and that gives us important information. 1, 7 out of 10 kids are involved in something, so that's a kudos to our advisors, our coaches, our guidance counselors, Mr. Englert as the former principal for getting everybody involved. And that also lets us know that there's some kids that aren't involved, and we want to identify who they are and do our best to get them involved. Because, this isn't just my opinion. School culture is built this way. And when you look at really high-performing schools, you'll notice that the more kids involved, the higher the academic outcomes usually are. So that was a quick snapshot as far as the data goes. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. I don't have any data, so I'm curious. I think in the terms of sports, and now when I graduated here in 1998, our class sizes were a little bit larger, but we had ninth grade football, we had JV football, we had JV, well, maybe we didn't have JV soccer. We might have only had one soccer team, I don't recall. I think sports are kind of explanatory. Activities and clubs, what would be examples of what activities and clubs are popular in our school? And then I was going to circle back to, what do we offer for JV, anything anymore? Do we have JV teams? If so, what sports do we have those participation levels high enough for that? Thanks.
Yeah, so I'll start with sports. I think across the board, county-wise, at least in my former job, JV teams aren't as present as they used to be. That's a fact for sure. And as far as our athletic programs go off the top of my head, we do have JV teams for our basketball programs. I believe football has one. I think soccer used to, they no longer have that anymore. So I think sports participation is declining overall. But for us, for me, it's not one size fits all. So there's different avenues, and we want to make sure we provide different avenues for all of our students to get involved. Whether it's sports, for instance, the musical, plays. We have a club called Envirothon, various clubs that all our kids can get involved in. And that's what I look for, is to make sure we're getting you involved in some capacity to do something. So, when you walk around our building tonight, and I know Mr. Engler is really aware of this, there are kids everywhere. When you think about even our arts programs, I think a lot of people think of, the people on the stage, but it's not just the people on the stage. There are countless kids behind the stage that are doing really important things, and I feel like this is purely anecdotal, but I feel like there's like 40 or 50 of them, because they're everywhere. They are literally everywhere. So those types of things really add to our school culture. And, for me going into next year, I'm going to keep a close eye on our 8th graders coming into 9th to see where they're at club-wise, because as you can look at those numbers, you go, well, as they get older, they do sort of subside a little bit, right? But I think the key is getting them in 9th grade, exposing them to a bunch of different things, and hopefully finding something they can hang their hat on and give them a reason to really, really perform well in school. Yeah.
Another thing that I feel like I want to point out that I noticed that we are doing here in Wattsburg too is when you think about the activities, we also have the leadership that work together to fundraise and put on these big events in our community that brings the community together, and it's pulling out everyone from different aspects, different dynamics, which I think just shows the growth we have in our community to bring a strong culture of family and community. So that's another thing I think I appreciate about what we do, like the carnival that we have, the end of the year, fire that they do, and everyone shows up to that, but it's showing our kids, even if they're not involved in activities, community, coming together, celebrating what we do in Wattsburg. So that's just another thing that I feel like just pointing those out, that those are important things that involve involvement that don't do sports or activities. It's just leading and growing leaders. So
yeah, absolutely. In fact, I mentioned the Morp dance earlier, how impressed I was with our students, ran by our leadership class, and really truly student ran as well. They did everything. I know that because I had to interact with them to plan the event, and they really did everything. So yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Hudnall?
Just appreciate your efforts to get to know the students, settle into the principalship. Very much enthusiastic, enthusiasm over in the high school, and we hope that this will continue to grow and just get stronger under your leadership. So thanks for all your efforts.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Blinn.
Thank you, Mr. Hudnall. All right, next on the agenda is guest and citizen comments. Do we have anyone signed up for this evening? All right, so we'll move on and recognize Dr. Kemberlin for the superintendent's report.
I do not have a report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Berlin. The chair now recognizes Ms. Vicky Bendig for the Business Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this evening. I just have the treasurer's reports that were presented at the work session. So for general fund, at the end of February, $12,910,377.05. I do not have a year-to-date budget versus actual report this month. I was traveling and working on contract negotiation, data crunching, so their time did not permit for that report. I will have an updated report next month that will include February and March. Capital projects, treasurer's report in that account, $17.22. The cafeteria fund has a total of $738,598.85. I do not have a report for the cafeteria and profit and loss because the reimbursement claim was not ready to be submitted yet. So I will have an updated report next month with all of that information. And then the student activities balance at the end of February, total in all of the student activity accounts, $74,874.23. And then for the bills for this evening, checks written prior to the work session last week, checks already written, general fund, $95,510.46. And cafeteria has $48,018.80 in bills. Then checks written between the work session and the board meeting, general fund, $27,922.41. There were no capital projects or cafeteria bills written between the meetings. The bill list for your board approval tonight for general fund, that total list totals $488,365.58. No capital projects. And cafeteria, $46,708.67. And those are all of the information that I have.
Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Bendig on her report? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the business report, payments, and invoices as presented.
So moved, Pushcheck.
Second, Burlingham.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. There are no items under legal advisement for this evening, so the chair will now recognize Dr. Pushchak for finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item this evening under finance. That is to approve the monthly budget transfer from budget to actual report as attached. So moved.
Nicole, second.
Any questions?
I just wanted to mention that there is no attachment because there is no budgetary transfer prepared.
So I'll withdraw my motion.
Motion withdrawn.
That's
Anything
all I
else
have,
for
Mr.
this
President.
evening?
That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Pushchak. Moving on to buildings and grounds, the chair now recognizes Mr. Blazer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two items for this evening. Without objection, I'll move both of those together. A is for security glass for exterior door project, to approve the purchase of security glass for exterior door project at Seneca High School from committed funds for safety and security as attached, and facility use requests also seen below for Miss Lucy's dancing school. So moved.
Nicole, second.
Any questions on these two items? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Blazer.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The chair now recognizes Ms. Nicole Lee for personnel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 5 items for tonight that I would like to move as one motion. They include A, appointments as listed on both the agenda and the addendum. B, resignations as listed. C, leave requests as listed. D, conference requests as listed. E, tuition reimbursement as listed. F, cafeteria head cook position MOA. G, job descriptions as listed. And H, addendum for ESS substitute list additions. So moved.
Second, Pushcheck.
Any questions from the board on any of the items presented by Ms. Lee? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And those motions carry. Thank you, Mrs. Lee. The chair now recognizes Ms. Brittany Burlingham for policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2 items underneath policy tonight. A is the first reading of the policies, to approve the first reading of policies as outlined and attached. And then B, we have our second reading of policies, to approve the second reading and review of the policies as outlined attached. And that is all I have.
Blazer, second.
Any questions on the policies as presented? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Burlingham. The chair now recognizes Mr. Morvay for curriculum.
Mr. President, there are 3 items under curriculum this evening. I'd like to move them as one motion, if there's no objection. The first item is item A, alternate education for disruptive youth services. That's the agreement between Wattsburg Area School District and the Bethesda Lutheran Services per the attachment. Item B is the educational services agreement, again, between Wattsburg Area School District and the Meadows Psychiatric Center for educational services. And the third is the substitute staff services between Wattsburg Area School District and the ESS Northeast for agreement for substitute staff. Those are the 3 items I have, Mr. President. So moved.
Blazer, second.
Any questions on these 3 items? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Morvay. The chair now recognizes Mr. Jesse Williams for technology.
Mr. President, I have nothing for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. The chair now recognizes Mr. Greg Brummagem for transportation.
Mr. President, I have 2 items for tonight, and I would like to do them separately since the second item does increase our expenses. Item A, transportation request to approve the transportation request and ratification of field trips since the last meeting as attached. So moved.
Second, Pushchak.
Any questions on the transportation requests? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Mr. President, my second item for tonight is the addendum to the transportation contract for the Durham School Services as attached for the transportation of our pupils. So moved.
Second.
Morvay, second.
Any questions on the amended transportation contract?
Mr. President, I have just one question, and that is, I know within side of this amendment, we're going to be doing a increase in rate. But my question is how much is that rate getting into the driver's hands, as in the amount of money? So, for example, if I raise it by $3 for rate, does that mean $2.80 is getting in the driver's hands for that rate? Or are we increasing the rate and Durham is, the company is taking a large percentage of that? I was just curious on that rate percentage, should I say.
It is my understanding that the total, we agreed upon or discussed a flat dollar amount rate increase to the drivers, which then translates into a per run increase in the contract. And that what we said is going to the driver will then drive up their benefit costs for their Social Security, like health insurance and all of that, maybe not health insurance, but all of the FICA, right? Like, so that increases, and I don't know what their retirement looks like or so we agreed to a flat dollar amount raise, which is quite healthy for the drivers. The percentage increase is not anywhere near the increase to the driver. Okay. So I feel confident that all of that is going to the drivers.
Okay.
Because they're feeling the pain that we're feeling, not
Right.
being able to.
Especially if we want to keep bus drivers obviously running, I want to get as much money into their hands, not necessarily
Correct.
overhead cost of
Yes.
a company of some sort. Okay.
Any other questions on the amended transportation contract? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Brummagem. Chair now recognizes Ms. Lee Hetherington for athletic and extracurricular.
I apologize, Mr. President. I have 5 items tonight that I would like to move at once if with no objection, and they are A, volunteer list additions, as you can see on the agenda, with a couple addendum additions. There is athletic training services, to approve athletic training services agreement between UPMC Sports and Wattsburg Area School District, as listed in the attachment. There is C, the athletic appointments as listed, D, extracurricular appointments as listed, and E, game help list additions as listed. So moved.
Second, Pushchak.
Any questions on those 5 items?
Mr. President, if I may, just a little plug for the UPMC agreement with our athletic trainer. Todd is doing a very good job, and I would just recommend to the board that we continue to keep that agreement in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morvay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And those motions carry. Thank you, Ms. Hetherington. There are no items under miscellaneous for this evening, so the board chair will now recognize Mr. Stephen Morvay for the Erie County Technical School Joint Operating Committee report.
Mr. President, this is the February Joint Operating Committee report, so I try to give you a brief overview of what transpired at that meeting. That, if you also recall, was the meeting of the 99 day, so some of you that may have taken a tour and visited the facilities, as well as heard a presentation by Mr. Laverde. Kind of as a State of the Union, I'll try to summarize some of those points for some of the board as well as for the public use as well. First off, though, I'd like to recognize that we had 3 students under the January student recognition program that the tech school does. We have Catherine Cesario under Auto Body, Allison Kennerconnect under Health Assistant, and then Jocelyn Goodenow under Hospitality Management. Those are the 3 students from Wattsburg School District that were recognized in January. Just also some updated items for the tech school coming up. Next month is their NOCD testing, and again, that's the technical testing that gets them their credits for the classes that they do take, so that's coming up for students next month, which is frankly very soon, probably in about 3 weeks, to mid-April usually. We also renewed an articulation agreement with Rosedale Technical College, which allows students that are taking classes now to get credit at that technical school going forward. So very similar to our kind of dual enrollment or RMU situation where those credits are transferable to Rosedale Technical College. And then a few items under the State of the Union, as Mr. Laverde might have presented during that day, but reiterated for us. Currently, there are 956 students in the tech school and projected to go over 1,000 next year. 1,050 is kind of their projection. Right now, 12 of the 20 programs are currently full. And within the last 5 years, we've talked about here, as well as staff turnover. In the last 5 years, they've turned over 57 positions out of 69 through various reasons, retirements, teachers going back into private industry, et cetera. You name the reasons, it's part of the world that's happening there at the tech school. In addition, there's we've in the last few years, if you recall, the new programs: sports therapy, emergency and protective services, and then heavy equipment. That was approved as well. And remember that the heavy equipment program won't kick in until 2026, in the fall of 2026. And then we also expanded the health assistant program, cosmetology, and the construction trades. Again, if you recall, those are now double versus the original single labs, is what they're called. And then also the tech school is also continuing to research grants. I know the state apparently this past year has been more favorable to tech schools regarding grants, so there's been more of those coming in. We've renewed the Erie Community Colleges agreement to use some of the facilities, so that partnership has been solidified, as well as whatever additional funding paths the technical school is trying to find, in addition to being funded by all 11 districts that go there. Just also an update on the solar project I may have mentioned last month. The grant request was submitted. It was approved by the Joint Operating Committee, not the project, just the grant request. So there'll be additional steps if that project is continuing to move forward. I'll report on that as well. In addition, as part of the growth there. There is a small project within the facility itself, actually to renovate and upgrade the health lab. That is another capital project that's $250,000 probably. And that's already within the budget allocation, so that was already known in the current budget, so there's no additional monies that need to be requested for that. And then lastly, for 2026, which they did the recruiting, which I recall is back in the fall, and then in the spring, they have an additional 530 applications that have been presented into the tech school. So obviously 12th graders will graduate out, and then with the, hence the larger increase in student population with these new applications. So currently the tech school is booming, I'll say. And that's all I have, Mr. President, unless there's any questions for me.
Any questions for Mr. Morvay on his report? Yeah, it was, I know Mr. Blazer was with me at the 99 luncheon and seeing the turnover numbers and then kind of chit-chatting with staff as we work through. And it's just a big transitional period, and seeing the influx of students and the expansion of programming is all a positive. And we're happy that you're able to bring this report every time you come back. So thank you very much, Mr. Morgan.
Absolutely, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right. The chair now recognizes Dr. Andrew Puschak for the Northwest Tri-County Intermediate Unit report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I gave a brief report towards the end of the work session with particular numbers related to our district regarding the proposed preliminary budget for the IU. The board of the IU did approve the preliminary budget, so it'll now go out to the districts for review. The director of finance met with superintendents, met with the business administrators, and met with the board. So I do have an executive summary, should anyone want to view that with the particular numbers. But other than that, that was the main focus. And our next meeting will be March 26th. So short report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Puschak? All right, hearing none, we'll now move on to board correspondence and dialogue. Does anyone have anything for the good of the order this evening?
Mr. President, if I can,
Yes, Mr. Brown.
I know last week at the work session, a shout out was given to some of our winter sports programs in basketball. I want to shout out to recognize again the success of winter sports, but some sports like wrestling, it's hard to read box scores when you see loss after loss after loss. It doesn't tell the full story for a program like a wrestling team, where it's really a one-on-one nature. Due to the small numbers that we have, it's very tough to compete with full rosters and get box score wins as a team. So you have to look at it much more of a individual nature, but also the fact that we had a first year coaching staff. So I think an update on that is to be given. And the fact that this board, prior to me being on here, did approve and vote for a women's team. So I wanted to give a brief update on that as well. So real quick, women's wrestling, one of the fastest growing sports in the country. NCAA Division I finally sanctioned that as well this past year. So you'll start seeing and that growing as well. The opportunity for women's wrestling when we talk about our high school sports activities and clubs, for a school district like ours, where money is finite and where our students don't have the resources to continue on in life, women's wrestling right now is that opportunity for a lot of people. The fact that it is in its infancy, the fact that we happen to live in the Keystone State, which is, I'll say, #1 in wrestling in the United States, or at least we try to be every year, just puts you at the head of the class when you enter the recruiting portal. So there's a lot of money there for that. So I want to make sure that our residents and that our students are aware of that. We had a first-year coaching staff. We had coaching turnover this past year. Nate Smith, head coach, Wattsburg alumni, took the program over, trying to build back to the legacy that he learned when he was here for that program. And I think Coach Smith did an excellent job. All the kids improved. Again, even though box scores, don't show it when you look at team things. He also brought in, I'm not going to say he brought in, through advertisement, I suppose, we were also able to get two Gannon University wrestling alumni as coaches. So one female wrestling coach and one male wrestling coach from the collegiate level. And that was really good additions to our school district and to our students. So I think they had an excellent first year coaching. We are young, we are small, but the kids, the student athletes all did really well. So thank you for that.
And seeing the improved results at States, and I assume we're going to go one more step up next year, right?
That's always their goal.
Climb one more step. Absolutely. Anyone have anything else before I take my turn? I wanted to say I traveled down to Penn West Clarion on Saturday, met up with Mr. Grove and Mr. Semrau and the high school and middle school Science Olympiad teams. Really, really, really super proud of the kids and their participation in the insane amount of hard work that some of these students did for the Science Olympiad regional competition. Our high school team ended up 4th place. They were only 11 points out of qualifying for states. Had a great group of kids, lots of medals coming out of that program. Mr. Semrau's group with the middle school ended up 3rd place, so they did qualify for states, just like last year. But the interesting thing with that group of kiddos is a full team's 15 students participating in that program, and there was only 8 students from our middle school. And I think I counted, and if I'm wrong, somebody will correct me, but I believe one individual student and one pair of students that both took on 5 events each. And if you know the amount of work that goes into some of these events at the Science Olympiad, that is a huge bite to take for students that are working through their daily studies as well. So super impressive watching those kids. Really happy to be able to go down and be a part of supporting our staff and our students for that. And the notation I wanted to make was, as I looked around at our students, we had student athletes on our Science Olympiad team. We had students that participate in our theater and music programs. The one thing they all had in common was the academics. And to have a program that is extracurricular, that they can get involved in and compete on a regional and a state level, where all of those other things come together and we just focus on the academic side and the sciences, is pretty awesome. So I just want to make notation of that myself. So does anyone have anything else for the good of the order? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Nicole, so moved.
Burlingham, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.